When the weather warms up, so does the real estate market. Sounds obvious, right? It's true. Spring typically means more home sales. But how will the current interest rates affect people's decisions? What about inventory? Is it high or low? And does that benefit the buyer or the seller? And how do those factors take into account a certain price point or area of the triad? Now it's not so obvious, is it? That's why you should turn to the Ginther Group to make sense of it all. You need someone you can rely on to assess your situation, read the data and trends, and point you in the right direction. Interest rates, inventory, even new construction. There are so many factors that impact our local market. And you should get your information from the folks right here in our backyard. Contact Blake Ginther and the Ginther Group today, 336-283-8689, or visit theginthergroup.com. Buying, selling, investing, or just learning, whatever you need, start now. And like me, you can become a Ginther Group client for life.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of In Harmony with Piedmont Opera. As you may have heard and may have seen, and this was celebrated at the final performance of Man of La Mancha recently, our artistic director of Piedmont Opera, Jamie Albritton, is retiring from his position after a tremendous, wonderful tenure. And today, we're excited to introduce you to our interim artistic director that is taking over. His name is Joseph Mechavich. Joseph, thank you for being here.
Great. Well, thank you, Adam, for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. And, I'm very humbled and very excited about this opportunity. The company is such a rich foundation of wonderful storytelling and celebrating the athleticism of the human voice. And I'm very excited to be building upon that foundation. I'm currently in Philadelphia, where I live, the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. I've been living here with my partner for about 15 years. Before that, we lived in Florida. I'm a conductor. I conduct all around. I'm usually on the road 9 to 10 months out of the year, conducting at opera houses around the country, around the world. I have led a very wonderful life. I'm very humbled by what I've experienced in the houses in Europe at Deutsche Oper or in New Zealand or across this really great country conducting productions of opera, which is very special to me. Opera is the art form.
What can you tell us about how you became familiar with the opportunity to come in as the interim artistic director with Piedmont Opera?
This industry is very small and very niche. One could actually surmise. And so I heard some information and through the grapevine and reached out about this exciting opportunity. I'm at a point in my life where I want to be part of an operatic family. I want to be part of a community. I want to be part of continuing a tradition of the arts in a community like Winston-Salem and the Triad as a whole. So it was very attractive to me to be a part of something and try to get my foot in the door.
Sure. Have you had time, or what have you thought about related to your vision for Piedmont Opera? And I guess we maybe should start, for those that haven't read the press release, tell us about the role of the interim artistic director. What is the timeline for that? How long are you planning on being in this role, at least on an interim basis?
Right now it's planning next season, and getting everything in line for bringing wonderful offerings to the community there. And these past couple of months that I've been doing that with the staff at Piedmont Opera and coordinating and getting the ideas fleshed out with what kind of repertoire we're going to present, working and trying to secure singers, sets, exciting things like that to bring to next season. So that's what I'm primarily responsible for, is for the 2 main stage shows and then all the other ancillary events around that.
Do you have a grand vision that you've thought about or tried to put into words for the upcoming season, or what you want to do while you're here?
It's funny because, my vision, it's important, but it's what suits the community. It's the needs of the constituency. What do they want to see? What is exciting to them? And that's me listening quite a bit to the major stakeholders, to the board members, to the patrons at large as to what they want to see on the stage in Winston-Salem and the Triad as a whole. Opera is a really big art form, and it has many, unfortunately, many um, ideas and bad sort of what is it called, facades about it or something, a bad rap. There it is. Um, and those are false. Opera is a theatrical experience. It's so engaging. Once you get people in the door and that you erase all of those negative aspects, people are hooked at the energy that you get from the stage, from the pit, and from your neighbors. So to me, a vision for an opera company comes from the idea of it being an opera house. It's a home. It's a home for people, and making sure everybody feels welcome. And the offerings that we do as a company, that we offer as a company, is what the people want to see and what entices them to bring it in, so that they have such a transformative experience and a very amazing artistic experience.
You mentioned some of your thoughts on the reputation, the legacy
Yeah.
of the Piedmont Opera Company. You know, continuing with that idea of vision, and you have your own vision, but at the same time, you rely on the people to assist you, and it becomes a collaboration. It's a community.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's not just one person that puts forth a vision. But as you think about the legacy of what Piedmont Opera has been, and what it will continue to be while you're here, how do you approach that word of legacy and reputation, and your fingerprints on that?
Well, again, building on that, what I have noticed and what Piedmont Opera celebrates is talent that happens to live in the area. I hate the word local talent. It seems so diminutive, but amazing talent that lives in the Triad. And one can surmise and also bring forth that lives in the state of North Carolina. There are some amazing singer actors that live throughout the state. That is something that Piedmont Opera is specialized in and must be continued, because it's a wonderful place to celebrate the artists that live in North Carolina. So building upon that is incredibly important to me. Also, just the theatricality of everything, knowing that the audiences are used to not the traditional, what I call park and bark, that they're used to having a theatrical experience. What I've learned in my very brief time in examining Winston-Salem, I've been there for a total of 4 days and 3 hours, is that the city is alive with theater. It is a theater city, and people who are going to the opera demand that theatricality. They demand not just the power and the expressive quality of the human voice, but also the acting chops of the singer actors and the chorus and the supernumeraries. That's also important to build on, to bring onto the stage.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear you talk about what you try to build upon. And I mean, I can hear your love and affection for this area and the theater that is so apparent in our community. And you're excited to build upon that. And so I wonder, as you look to build upon what already exists here, what do you feel like you bring to this role in this community, in this theater and performing arts experience?
Yeah. Selfishly, and I say also very with abundance of humility, the career I have had has exposed me to many people in the industry. People who are creative thinkers, people who think outside of the box, whether it's behind the proscenium when it comes to the production side of things, performers themselves, or even the creative types like composers and librettists. And I've worked at different sizes of opera companies as well, from the big places like at Lincoln Center with New York City Opera or the Kennedy Center, down to smaller companies like the Pine Mountain Music Festival in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And it's bringing those experiences that I've had throughout this country and helping to add some more building blocks to this foundation that already exists through my own experience.
What do you look forward to when it comes to engaging with audience members, supporters of Piedmont Opera, ones that already exist, but then the ones that haven't discovered it yet?
I gotta. There's a story that I'm reminded of, just to sort of state the metaphysical aspect of my answer. I was conducting Eugene Onegin, and some friends of ours were seeing me conduct for the very first time. And after the show, um, our friend Louise said to me, I watched you during the prelude, but then I forgot you were there. To me, that was the most, it's the compliment I cherish the most, because that means we did our job, that we brought the audience into the theatrical presentation, that they were engrossed by it. And my job when I'm is to do just that. That is also when I'm working with, talking with, experiencing, listening to the patron base there, is to ensure the fact that what I bring to the stage is something that ends in that result.
Wow, that's we've heard a lot of examples of compliments that people receive, but I can see why that one can be so meaningful, and that's a unique one. Yeah,
Yeah.
very good.
It did take my breath away, because it's exactly, you know, there are moments in the theater where it's dead silent, and we've all been in those, whether you're watching a film or you're in a straight theater or watching opera where it's dead silent. And the only thing you can feel is everyone's heartbeat is united and everyone's almost breathing at the same time. That is what I strive for when I'm at the podium, is creating that space for everyone. From the people are pulling the curtains, to the singers on stage, to the clarinetist in the pit, to the usher, is creating that environment so the audience can then breathe together. That's
Wow.
that's the most meaningful thing to me.
Yeah, that's well said. Very well said. Um, I'm curious to know what challenges you see in balancing the artistic integrity of opera with the need to adapt to changing cultural trends and audiences' expectations. That's become a theme on this podcast of, how do you find the next generation of audience members, and what kind of things do you change about the presentation, but also not losing the original fabric of what this means to so many people. So how do you juggle that?
Yeah, I think this question, unfortunately, has always come from the fact that someone thinks that opera is broken, that there's something wrong with it. And I think if you approach this question from the negative, you're in for some problems. Opera is, as it is right now, is amazing. How do we attract people uh, into the theater to experience this? There are different ways of doing that. First of all, it's having a consistent product. So, we only have two chances at Piedmont Opera to touch our audiences. Two chances. The Winston-Salem Symphony has so many opportunities. The Little Theater in Winston-Salem has so many opportunities. We have two chances, and having a consistent product, a high quality product, which already exists, but building upon that, so that people are then attracted to that. They want to be part of that exceptional experience. And that experience is also not just what's on stage. Traditionally, opera and opera houses in the 19th century were places where the community got together. You got to be seen, you got to eat food during the opera, play cards, drink. That aspect of opera is incredibly important, the social aspect, and making sure that we have all our ducks in the row, so that people, when they go to the opera, they're able to socialize with their neighbor or meet someone new and have that communal experience. So that the goal is you feel so comfortable when you're in your chair that you start breathing together.
Yeah, there you go.
So it starts with that, is that making sure that it's the production, the product is also what happens in the foyer, what also happens in and around the theater, that everyone feels comfortable going to and making it attractive. We are so um, inundated with options of what we want to do next weekend. And not only that, but we don't even plan what we're going to do on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So it has to be something that is exceptional, that appeals to everyone, whether it's holding a glass of champagne or holding a Diet Coke. as long as you feel comfortable being there and willing to experience something extraordinary with your community.
Yeah, great answer. Really good answer. When did opera first become part of your life?
I was a pianist. At undergrad, I went to Oberlin, and then I went to Yale. And part of my scholarship at Oberlin was to play for voice studios. And as anybody who is a straight musician was, I was going to play Beethoven sonatas and concertos around the world. Um, how dare I could ever play for a singer? I mean, they're not musicians or whatever. But I started to play for them, and I absolutely fell in love with them because number one, their body's their instrument. Even today, I get to hide behind my baton or an orchestra, but singers are naked. Their body is the vessel, and when something goes wrong, it's because there's a muscle that's ajar, or they're not feeling well. There's something, so they're always self-examining themselves, and it was that vulnerability that I felt very attracted to. Not to mention, everything has to be memorized. They're singing in 55 billion languages. So I fell in love with that process. And as a musician, I fell in love with this thing called breathing. Because it wasn't until I started working with singers when I was an undergrad that I realized I was not breathing. I
Mm.
never took a breath at the end of a phrase. So I started doing that. And that sort of changed my life a little bit. So that's what got me into, first of all, falling in love with the singer actor. And then I played as a pianist, as a repetiteur. I played for some productions in undergrad, and I fell in love with how big the process was. It's lonely being on stage playing Beethoven piano sonatas. You are not lonely when you're conducting opera. There are
Yeah.
so many people.
Springtime brings so many special occasions, so why not spring into Dewey's for all your celebration needs? From custom, unique cakes to balloons and party tableware to the perfect gift, Dewey's is your one-stop shop in the Triad. Even if you don't have a big event on the horizon, it's always a great day to stop by your local Dewey's Bakery, especially on Mondays for free Cake Square Day. No purchase necessary and available all year round at any of their Triad area locations in Winston-Salem at Thruway Shopping Center and Renolda Manor, and in Greensboro at the Friendly Shopping Center. Need to place that order now? Visit local.deweys.com, and as a listener of the Triad Podcast Network, you'll receive 25% off by using the code PODCAST. Our friends at Dewey's are always finding great ways to give back to our local community, providing millions of dollars to nonprofits. Your organization can also partner with Dewey's to raise money. Just email cake@deweys.com to learn more. Don't miss the chance to make your event even more special with an order at local.deweys.com. Use the promo code PODCAST for 25% off. Dewey's. Celebrate every day.
It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor. And that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit 3magnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. 3 Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Private Client Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through 3 Magnolias Financial Advisors. 3 Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
Well, that is a perfect transition into the next question, which is about collaboration. I mean, you learned very early when you started to understand the art form of opera, how collaborative it has to be. Tell me about your ways of collaborating and how you try to foster that type of environment that is so key to making everything work the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's in my seat as a conductor or even as an artistic director, it's to be overly prepared myself. I have a duty to um, follow the rules and regulations set forth by the composer and the librettist. I start with that very baseline of celebrating every single thing that the composer and librettist put into that piece. What is incredible is that when you look at these pieces of art, there are 16th note rests and fermata over rest and fermata over long notes and tempo changes. That's the collaborative event, is how do you interpret these things? And that comes with allowing your colleagues, whether it's an oboe player or a soprano, to express what they do best. And conducting is very simple. It's knowing when to accompany and when to lead. And that is the sort of the way that I control the room, is knowing when I have to lead it and when I have to accompany it. That trust, that foundation of knowing the score inside and out, that sort of gathers everyone around so we have that common goal. And knowing that every decision that's made, every decision that I make is how we best can tell the story to the audience. You know, as I tell orchestras when I work with them in the pit, I said, if you see me waving my arms too big, there are one of two things are happening. Number one, I'm showing off, or number two, there's something going wrong. So everything is about creating that space for my colleagues in the pit, on stage, and even backstage, curtains, light cues, everything, that there's a clarity so that they can deliver their product with consummate acumen.
Wow. What is do you have a performance, whether you've seen it or you've been involved with it, that stands out beyond any other?
I've had a lot of I've done a lot of Jake Hagee's operas. Very honored to have done that. And recently at the Met, they did Moby Dick. That production I've done in Calgary and San Diego. And what sticks out of my mind is the first time I did Moby Dick in Calgary. And I'm going to, spoiler alert, you know, the Melville's novel starts with Call Me Ishmael in the opera. It ends with that. And at the end of Jake's Moby Dick, it's very ethereal music and greenhorns being pulled up to the boat. And sure enough, it's very beautiful. You've just gone through this long journey. And the last word is Call Me Ishmael. And from the back of the theater, you heard this man scream at the top of his lungs, I knew it. I will never forget that. I will never forget that.
Unscripted.
Unscripted, could not contain, and just exploded, you know, with waiting for that line, and he had to wait to the very, very end. That was just like, I forgot that you were in the pit. That's the same sort of reaction that I had. Like, that's the energy, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great story. What are some of your favorite venues that you've been able to, again, either be a part of the production or just witness a production?
Well, I mean, witnessing, you know, it was a number of years ago, I first went to Disney Hall and heard the LA Philharmonic. That was an event. I mean, visually, Disney Hall is beautiful, but acoustically, it is, I mean, amazing, just stunning. A non-traditional space that I did a show on was in a flour mill in Minneapolis that had exploded. So it was exploded a long, long time ago. It missing a roof and half of a wall, and they turned it into a performance space. So we did an opera out there, outside, and it was really cool surroundings. It was on the Mississippi River, you know, and there were apartments all around, so people are looking down at the performance. That was kind of fun. And then there's always the iconic Santa Fe Opera out there on the hill overlooking the mountains. It's really quite extraordinary.
Wow. You know, I loved your answer earlier when we talked about the balance of keeping with what opera was intended to be, but also trying to make sure that it's evolving to attract whether it's a younger audience or just different audiences. And you said you can't operate from a starting place that it's broken. You
Right.
can't operate from a negative place to begin. And so I'm curious what strategies that you've thought about in terms of just being able to connect the Piedmont Opera with the local community and finding ways to just continue to educate people more or bring more people involved and affiliated with it, and introduce it to in as many unique ways as you can, from a place of you know not saying that it's broken and we have to go and find people that and change their opinion of it, but
Right.
you're just trying to do it from a position of exposure.
Exactly. And so that's really thinking outside the box. And that is, you know, a lot of what we're fighting against, I think, in the opera industry is that we're still expecting people to come to the theater. We have to find innovative ways where we go to them first on a consistent basis. So that means whether it's, you know, people use engagement, they use educational, they use outreach, whatever you want to call it, it is developing an audience. So that could be having a series that is consistently going on throughout a couple of years, because you have to earn the trust of your constituency, at a library somewhere, right? Or the brewery things that Piedmont Opera does, bringing singers into different events so people have that connection to seeing the Olympic athleticism of the voice up close. And continuing that trajectory and having more offerings in the community of sort of different sort of produced entertainments. A great example, again, I'm going back to Calgary. The late general director there, Bob McPhee, started a summer festival down on the Elbow River in downtown Calgary. Now, Calgary, you only have like 2 months out of the year where you could go outside. But he had a festival down on the river where it was in a circus tent, and they did like HMS Pinafore and Candide, and it was 2 weeks long and showed movies on the side of a building and beer garden and face painting. And the thing was sold out all the time. None of those people went to the main stage operas during the year. So it's finding different ways to celebrate the theatricality of the human voice and telling stories through the voice, finding different venues, different ways of doing that, and then going to where a different demographic might want to be, who want to partake in this, and just know that we are servicing the community in different ways.
Yeah, I can't wait to see some of that come to fruition. What's on your short list of when you arrive in Winston the next time to officially get started with this role of interim artistic director? Do you have a short list of, okay, here are the first things that I want to accomplish. Here's the first things that I want to do as soon as I hit the ground.
Right. I mean, I've already done that. I mean, everything to me about what we do in the arts is about planning. And being incredibly organized and being thoughtful, and just to get on the business side of it, really working intimately with the budget, celebrating the budget as a moral document, you know, looking at it every day to find out how to count the paper clips so that when we can make sure what we do, there is transparency in what we're doing, and it's also fiscally responsible, and we're still creating an enormously fantastic product. So that's what I've been doing. That's the way I was sort of raised in the opera world, is to do that. And I've already been doing that. So it's about doing planning and the process, making sure that everything's in line as we get closer and closer to the first show that we do.
Sure. So what was it that you said earlier? In this process, you spent 4 days and 3 hours in Winston-Salem,
4 days and 3
right?
hours.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm curious to know, what is it you're looking forward to learning about this city that you don't already know?
Well, I mean, just driving around for those 4 days, there are a lot of these nooks and crannies. You know, there's all these little neighborhoods with busy restaurants and small bars, and you know, the city seems alive. You know, North Carolina is alive. I mean, I do a lot of work in Raleigh, and that the whole megalopolis from Raleigh to Charlotte is just exploding, right? And Winston-Salem still has this unique college town quality to it. And everything seems to be accessible and a really vibrant group of people that I've met so far that I've been there. So um, it's finding those neighborhoods, where to bring some opera to, right? Um, and just keep on investigating to make sure that people understand that Piedmont Opera is an option, as they plan their year and plan their entertainment.
Well, Joseph, we've enjoyed having you on this podcast and getting to know you a little bit more. As again, this is a way of trying to introduce you to the audience. Is there any final words, any final thoughts you'd like to offer to those that'll start to get to know you on a deeper level here soon?
Well, I'm just thrilled to be new to this community, and I can't wait to meet more and more people. And I'm just excited to celebrate this art form that's so dear to me, and again, build upon the amazing foundation that's already existed with Piedmont Opera, and sharing in the wonderful theatricality and celebrating the voice.
Joseph Mechavich, the newly named Interim Artistic Director for Piedmont Opera. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you here.
Thank you so much.